You knew it was destroying you. You prayed about it, cried over it, promised God you were done, and then they called. Or they texted. Or they just showed up at your door looking like the person you fell in love with. And something inside you, something deep and almost involuntary, pulled you right back in. And now you're sitting here asking yourself, what is wrong with me? Why can't I just leave and stay gone? I need you to hear something before we go any further. Nothing is wrong with you, but something has been done to you. And today, we are going to talk about one of the most powerful, least understood, and most spiritually significant psychological traps in human relationships. It's called a trauma bond. And I'm going to show you that the Bible understood this trap thousands of years before psychology ever gave it a name. Let's start with what's actually happening, because if you've been in this situation, you already know that willpower alone doesn't work. You've tried that. You've made the decision. You've blocked the number. You've written in your journal. You've had the conversation with your therapist or your pastor. And still, the pull is there. Like a gravitational force you can feel but can't explain. So, let's explain it. Because once you understand what's happening in your brain and in your soul, something shifts. The confusion starts to clear, and clarity is the beginning of freedom. A trauma bond is not just getting deeply attached to someone. It's not just falling hard or being loyal to a fault. A trauma bond forms when a specific pattern of behavior, a cycle of abuse or emotional chaos, followed by moments of warmth, affection, and hope, gets repeated over and over until your brain builds its entire emotional reward system around that person. The psychological term for the mechanism is intermittent reinforcement, and it is, without exaggeration, one of the most addictive psychological forces known to behavioral science. Here's how it works at the neurological level. Your brain runs on dopamine, the chemical of reward, motivation, and craving. In a stable, healthy relationship, consistent love and safety produce a steady, moderate dopamine response. Your brain gets used to it. It feels warm and good, but not overwhelming. But in a chaotic, unpredictable relationship, where someone withholds affection and then gives it lavishly, where they hurt you and then apologize deeply, where they pull away and then come back with intensity, the dopamine system goes haywire. Because unpredictable rewards produce the highest dopamine spikes the brain can generate. This is the exact same neurological mechanism behind slot machine addiction. The casino didn't invent that by accident. The brain is wired to chase the uncertain reward harder than it chases the certain one. Now combine that with cortisol, the stress hormone. When you are in a relationship defined by uncertainty and emotional danger, your cortisol stays chronically elevated. You're always scanning. You're reading their mood before you've even said good morning. You're tracking every micro shift in their tone, their expression, their availability. And when they finally show up warmly, when the tension breaks and they're kind again, affectionate again, the person you fell in love with again, the relief you feel is not just emotional. It's biochemical. Your cortisol drops. And your brain associates that drop in pain, that wave of relief, with that specific person. Over time, they become the source of your stress and the only one who can relieve it. That is a trap built inside your own nervous system. And then there's the layer underneath all of this, which is where the deepest wound lives. Many people who are most vulnerable to trauma bonds didn't encounter this pattern for the first time as adults. They encountered it in childhood. A parent who was emotionally unavailable most of the time, but occasionally warm and present. A caregiver who mixed love with criticism, or with unpredictability, or with fear. When the nervous system is wired in those early years to equate love with anxiety, to understand that closeness must be earned, that connection is always fragile, that the good moments are rare and therefore precious, it creates a template. And as an adult, without ever choosing it consciously, you find yourself drawn to relationships that match that template. Stable love can actually feel wrong. It can feel boring or suspicious or too good to be true. But the chaos, the intensity, the push and pull, that feels familiar. That feels like love, because that is how you learned love in the first place. This is not a character flaw. This is a wound being replayed. And then add one final layer, what researchers call sunk cost psychology. The more you've invested, years, prayers, plans, children, your 20s, your self-image, your hope, the more impossible it feels to accept that this person is not the answer. Because walking away doesn't just mean leaving them. It means accepting that what you sacrificed was taken, not given. That the relationship you believed in was, in significant part, a cycle designed to keep you emotionally dependent. That grief is almost unbearable. And so the mind reaches for the one thing that makes the unbearable bearable. The belief that if you just try harder, love better, stay longer, it will finally become what you always hoped it would be. And that belief keeps you in the cycle for years. Now let's go to the Bible. Because what God recorded thousands of years ago about this exact pattern is one of the most shocking and psychologically precise things in all of Scripture. Open your Bible to the book of Numbers, chapter 11. The Israelites have been rescued from Egypt. God showed up with undeniable, history-altering miracles. 10 plagues, the Red Sea parted, manna appearing on the ground every morning, water flowing from a rock in the desert. They are free. After 400 years of slavery, they are free. And what do? Numbers 11:5, they cry out. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost, also the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic. But now we have lost our appetite. We never see anything but this manna. Let that sink in for a moment. They are receiving supernatural provision, bread from heaven. And they are romanticizing the food of their captivity. Egypt, where they were beaten, where their babies were thrown into the Nile, where they cried out to God for 400 years under the whip of Pharaoh's overseers. And they are sitting around fires saying, I miss Egypt. The food was better there. Do you recognize that pattern? Have you ever caught yourself missing the good moments in a relationship that was hurting you? The rare warmth, the good days, the person they could be when things were calm, while your mind quietly edits out the cruelty, the manipulation, the nights you cried on the bathroom floor. That is not weakness. That is the brain doing exactly what the traumatized brain does. It amplifies the reward memories and minimizes the pain memories, because the pain is too much to hold on to consciously. It is a survival mechanism. And the Israelites, as a collective, were doing exactly this. But it gets darker. In Numbers 14, the Israelites are standing at the border of the Promised Land. They send spies ahead, and the spies come back with a mixed report. Yes, the land is extraordinary, flowing with milk and honey. But there are giants. There are fortified cities. Moving forward will require courage and complete trust in God. And the people's response is devastating. They weep all night. They grumble against Moses and Aaron. And then, this is the part that should stop you in your tracks. They actually vote to elect a new leader who will take them back to Egypt. Back to slavery. The freedom was too threatening. The journey was too hard. The giants were too frightening. And what does God say? Numbers 14:11. The Lord said to Moses, How long will these people treat me with contempt? How long will they refuse to trust in me, in spite of all the signs I have performed among them? God is not just frustrated, He is grieving. Because He has shown them, over and over, that He is trustworthy. He has come through, again and again. And still, they cannot transfer their trust. Their nervous systems, wired for captivity, cannot metabolize freedom. The Promised Land feels more dangerous than slavery, because slavery was known. Slavery was familiar. Slavery didn't require them to trust anyone they couldn't see. And that is the trauma bond. 4,000 years before Dr. Patrick Carnes, named it in a clinical paper. It is people choosing their Egypt because Egypt, at least, was predictable. And then there is one more figure, Lot's wife. Genesis 19. The angels are physically pulling Lot and his family out of Sodom before God's judgment falls. The command is clear and urgent. Flee for your lives. Don't look back, and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Don't look back. She looked back. Psychology gives us something profound to say about that moment. Looking back in the context of trauma is not simple curiosity. It is unresolved attachment. It is the part of the soul that has not yet grieved, has not yet accepted that what it's leaving was a prison, not a home. When that part of you is still alive and unprocessed, the pull of what was can stop you in the middle of your escape, can freeze you, can turn your liberation into another form of loss. Lot's wife is not a story about a woman who made a mistake by being too curious. She is an image of every soul caught between a past it hasn't healed and a future it hasn't learned to trust. Her story is a warning that you can be physically free and still be emotionally, spiritually chained to what you left. And that chains of the heart are just as real as chains of iron. Now here is the twist, the part that changes everything. The part that most people in church and most people in therapy both miss. The reason trauma bonds are so difficult to break is not purely psychological. It is spiritual. Ephesians 6:12 says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." The person you're bonded to may not be evil, but the system, the cycle, the invisible structure of pain and reward that holds you in orbit around someone who is not good for you, that system operates at a spiritual level. It exploits your wounds, it amplifies your fears, and it whispers a very specific lie, calibrated exactly to your history. You need them. Without them, you are nothing. No one else will love you like this. And sometimes, this is the darkest part, it weaponizes your faith. You committed to them. Forgiveness means staying. God hates divorce. You should be patient. It takes holy things and uses them as shackles. Here is the counterintuitive truth that will reframe everything if you let it. The intensity of what you feel when you think about going back is not evidence of love. It is evidence of the depth of the wound. The stronger the pull toward someone who is hurting you, the more accurately that pull is pointing you to a place inside yourself that is still bleeding, a place that needs healing, not from that person, but from God. Breaking a trauma bond is not about being strong enough to walk away. It is about becoming whole enough that you no longer need what the bond was providing. So what do? Here is the path, psychological and biblical, because you need both. First, name it. This is foundational. You have to be willing to look at the relationship clearly and say, out loud, to someone you trust, I am trauma bonded. This is not for his armies, but for the hunger in his heart to seek truth, not for his armies. This is a cycle my brain and nervous system are caught in because of something that was done to me. Naming it does not break it immediately, but it closes the door on the confusion that keeps you spinning. You stop asking, why do I love someone who hurts me? And start asking the right question, what wound inside me is being activated by this relationship? Second, break the cycle of intermittent reinforcement. This means creating distance, real, consistent distance. Not because you hate them, not for his strength, not for his armies, but for the hunger in his heart to seek truth. Your nervous system requires consistent safety over an extended period of time to begin to recalibrate. This is not cruelty. It is survival. Third, grieve the whole thing. Not just the person. Grieve the version of the relationship you believed was possible. Grieve the years. Grieve the energy you gave. And grieve. This is the part most people skip because it is the most painful. Grieve the childhood wound that this relationship was echoing. Because the adult relationship is rarely where the story started. Go back to where the template was first laid down and grieve that too. Let yourself feel the full weight of what it cost. This is not self-pity. This is holy, necessary, healing work. And then, the biblical application. Romans 12:2. Do not for his strength, not for his armies, but for the hunger in his heart to seek truth. It means a fundamental shift at the level of identity, and that shift comes through the replacement of thought patterns formed in captivity with truth that can only come from God. Pray this with me right now, wherever you are. God, show me who I am outside of this relationship. Show me every lie I have believed about what love looks and feels like. Rebuild my identity from the ground up. I am not a slave anymore. And get into community. Not just people who will validate your pain, but people who knew you before, or who can see you clearly now, and will keep speaking truth to you when the pull feels louder than the voice of reason. The Israelites needed Moses. They needed each other. They needed people who could keep the vision of the promised land alive when all they could see was the wilderness. You need those people too. The trauma bond tells you that you are nothing without that person, that you'll never find better. That real love has to hurt this much. Every single one of those is a lie, and the truth, as Jesus said in John 8:32, will set you free. Not over the course of a single prayer, but over the course of a life rebuilt on what is actually true about who you are and who God says you are. You are not an Israelite walking back into Egypt. You are not Lot's wife frozen on the road. You are someone who was designed for a promised land. And the fact that you're watching this today tells me the journey is not over. It's just getting started. Have you ever been in a trauma bond? Or are you in one right now? And what was the moment you first realized the pull you were feeling wasn't really just love, but something much deeper? Drop your story in the comments, because someone watching this right now needs to know they are not alone.